Hello, everybody. So as you know, I've been following the Anthropic story. And a few days ago, there was a report from Reuters talking about Anthropic being worth potentially $800 billion, perhaps still saying no to VCs wanting to invest at an $800 billion valuation. And as you may know, my play for Anthropic potentially becoming the leader of AI, my play is through Zoom. Zoom stock, yes, the teleconference app. That's my play. So anyways, let's get started. Anthropic, what happens to Zoom if Anthropic is actually worth $800 billion, as Reuters report? And by the way, the founder of Anthropic apparently is at the White House to discuss Mythos. And Mythos, of course, is widely discussed right now. Some of the exploits that it's been able to discover. Of course, it's discussed in the context of national security. But if you're the best at code, that just means that you can find exploits, but that also means that you're the best at code. And so you can create codes, I don't know, could Anthropic recode entirely Microsoft Windows, for example, which is like something that, of course, Grok and Elon Musk has been talking about with creating macro hard. Like, what does software mean with the Mythos AI, with Project Mythos, with that version of a software? What does software mean? And that's why a lot of people have said, maybe this is close to super intelligence, artificial super intelligence. Others have dismissed it. Typically, people who don't like Anthropic have dismissed it and said it's a marketing campaign. I don't know. But I know that Zoom has not reacted. Zoom has not traded based on Anthropic, even though they own a big stake for Zoom in Anthropic. So anyways, if Anthropic becomes a multi-trillion-dollar company, the one that OpenAI was expected to become. You may remember 2 years ago, everybody was saying OpenAI is going to be that multi-trillion-dollar company. Well, what if it's actually Anthropic who's going to be that company? Remember, this is a company that scaled in 4 months. They did 3.5x revenue. That was the last time reported. They could be at 5x revenue in 5 months now, 5 times, multiplying by 5-year revenue in 5 months. That's where they could be at right now. So again, and growing for a very, very, very high base. So Zoom has not moved. It's essentially flat, still trading in the high 80s. It really hasn't moved that much. But here's a fact. Zoom, in 2023, they invested in the Series C of Anthropic. My best research suggests that Zoom owns about 1.2%. 1.2% of Anthropic, and that's despite the former founding rounds. Now, that would probably drop to like 1.1 if actually someone injected money at 800. I'm not even sure. It depends how much money would actually get in at 800 billion. I don't know, right? But that's how dilution works. I mean, doesn't matter. Like if you dilute at 800 million, if you only take 100 million of investment, you're not going to dilute the stake of Zoom, if it makes some sense. But 1.2%, but we don't exactly know. But if it's 1.2% of an asset now worth 800 billion, that means that the small 53 million investment that Zoom made in Anthropic in 2023, that investment could be worth 9.6 billion today. 9.6 billion. And the market cap has barely moved, like I said. So Zoom is a $25 billion company with potentially a nearly $10 billion stake in Anthropic. So that means that right now, 37% of the market cap is accounted for by Anthropic. 37%. This is much greater exposure than Amazon. I know a lot of people have been getting into Amazon stock because they want to get exposure to Anthropic through Amazon's stake in Anthropic. But Amazon is a multi-trillion-dollar company, and sure, Amazon owns a lot of Anthropic, and so does Google. But you're not as pure play as Zoom. Zoom, the 1.2% that Zoom owns, now accounts for 37% of the entire market cap, and it gets better. Zoom has $7.8 billion worth of cash. So, if you look at the share of Anthropic, right? The share of Anthropic in the enterprise value of Zoom. So you got to remove the cash from the market cap, right, to get the enterprise value. So 25.8 billion market cap minus 7.8 billion of cash, right? You get an enterprise value for Zoom of 18 billion. 18 billion is the enterprise value, of which 9.6 billion is the value of an Anthropic stake. So the enterprise value of Zoom is 53% accounted for by Anthropic. Anthropic explains 53% of the enterprise value of Zoom, which is crazy. And so then the question becomes is, Zoom is trading at an Anthropic adjusted enterprise value, i.e. cash adjusted, of value of 8.4 billion. 8.4 billion is what Zoom essentially trades at. That's the cost of Zoom. Is that worth it for one of the former hottest stocks? And of course, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it's definitely worth it. If you take the Anthropic adjusted enterprise value of Zoom at 8.4 billion, if you take that number, that means Zoom is trading at an enterprise value over sales of 1.7%. Over gross profit, EV over gross profit of 2.2, right? And EV over EBITDA of 6.6. Zoom is trading like a mall shop that's going out of business. It's trading like an old barber shop and someone's retiring and they want to sell it and, business is not doing well. That's what Zoom is trading at. For a company, which, by the way, is still growing top line at 6%, for a company which, by the way, has an active buyback program, and it's been their game plan for the longest time now, since they've, because Zoom has been in a valley of despair, of course. Who's interested in Zoom these days? Very few people. They've been in a valley of despair, so they have their program of printing cash and buying back the stock, but they are sitting on $10 billion worth of Anthropic, and the market has not noticed. All of this for a business which, frankly, is not dead. A business I wouldn't be interested in normal times. I would entirely dismiss in normal times a business only growing at 6% top line growth. But given that half of the value of Zoom is represented by Anthropic, which is a business whose top line has likely quintupled over the past 5 months, to me, this stock becomes very compelling, very, very compelling, because you have the margin of safety of a mostly recurring revenue growth, right? It's mostly enterprise. They have a strong business with call centers. They have a strong business with quote unquote elite enterprise, top 10 Fortune 100 enterprise. They have a strong solopreneur business, people running small businesses on their own and talking to suppliers. They have a moat, I could argue, because, they've built a network. I mean, this is sort of a network, right? It's it's like a mini WhatsApp or like a mini Facebook. It's a network for enterprises. If you have Zoom, if you're used to Zoom, if you know Zoom. Anyways, they have dedicated power users. Teams is universally hated. This is kind of the same story as a lot of companies disrupted by Microsoft. People still use Slack, for example. Even though there's Microsoft Teams, Slack is now an old piece of software, right? It's well over 10 years old, but people still use it. Even though Teams is out there, right? People are still going to use Zoom. I think you have some durability in this business. Plus, they have a few AI initiatives, some of which with Anthropic, with bringing agents into the conversation, bringing agents into the meetings, transcripts, etc. To me, it's not a dead business. It's just not a very exciting, not a very exciting business. But given that stake in Anthropic, this becomes a very exciting play for me. So, what's Zoom worth? Well, I think it's worth more than the $80 and change that it's trading at right now. I think it's worth more. So anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you're entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.